So let's take a look and see what we actually get with the infrared gauge. So welcome to episode 3 of the retro videos on how I got this Jeep to cool all those years ago. To put these 3 videos in context, you should go back and watch all 3 videos, and I'll put the links to episode 1 and 2 in the description so that you can go back and see all the things that I did to get to the point that I'm at on this video. Now, there were a few other things that I had to do, and those videos are already up on the channel. So if you come back at the end of this video, I'm going to do an explanation of some of those other things that I had to do to get this thing to run cooler, because this episode right here wasn't the total solution. There were 2 more things that I needed to do. Enjoy the video, guys, and I'll see you on the other side. Alright, so in our last video at the end, I was confused. I wasn't sure where the thermostat located, what secured it or held it in place. I was looking for certain things, but hey, let me show you. This is a Ford Cleveland block, and typically most of these engines have some kind of a boss recess that the thermostat fits into. So on the front of this Cleveland, we can see that boss right here. So what happens is when you install the thermostat, and that's actually the thermostat that's going to go in the Jeep, when you install that thermostat, it fits into that boss or that recess, and it's nice and stable and it doesn't move. And then when the housing cap goes over the top, it holds that thermostat in place. Now, when we were looking at the Jeep, or when I was looking at the Jeep, that's what I was looking for, and I couldn't find it. Let's take a look at the Jeep, and I'll show you what it is that we needed to do in order to make the thermostat work in the Jeep as well. Okay, so here's what I discovered. This is the thermostat housing, the top horn, which is correct, and here's the thermostat that we had at the last time, and you saw on the Cleveland block how this fit into that recess. Well, there's no recess on this engine. That's what I was looking for. So there were obviously some things missing in the setup the way it was. So I went and looked up, and I found out that what was missing was this thermostat retainer. Now, the early Jeeps had a little bit different thermostat. It had a bellows style thermostat, and that bellows, it was like an accordion. It expanded and contracted to depending on the temperature of the water. And that bellows or that bellows thermostat fit inside here, and that's what helps secure it and maintain the opening or the clear area for the bellows to operate. Well, they don't use the bellows anymore. They use these modern thermostats, but it turns out that the retainer works the same way. So how this works is the thermostat itself fits up inside of the housing, and it fits in there nice and secure, as far as there's no rattling, and it stays in place. But when you tip it over, it falls out. That's where the retainer comes in. Now the retainer, it's a slight press fit. So once you put the retainer in, it stays in place. So in order to do this, the first thing we need to do is install the thermostat, and then install the retainer. And the modern thermostats have the same type of lip ring that the bellows style had. So once that's installed, the thermostat is held in place, and it's held on center in that opening, and then the retainer keeps it in place. So we install it on the block, we bolt it in with our gasket and gasket material, and then we're ready to go. All right, so I'm going to go do that. I'm going to go do that install. And again, you don't need to watch the install, because it's going to get installed in the exact, again, same reverse order that it came out. And when I'm done, I'll come back and I'll pick up the camera, and again, we'll take a tour. And then finally, we'll get the thing started and run and see how it works. Does it actually give us the cooling that we were looking for? All right, so I'll see you when that's done. So the job is done. We've installed everything. The new radiator's in, the new thermostat's in, the new radiator hoses are in, and we're ready to go. We've got the water in, and it's all charged, and we're ready to take it for a ride, take it for a spin, and make sure that everything's functioning. Now, I've already started the Jeep, so I'm pretty confident that everything is circulating the way it should. I'm pretty confident that the thermostat is opening as it should. But we'll get it on the road, we'll test it, and that'll be the real tale as to whether we've got this thing set up right. So I'm going to grab the camera, take you on tour, and show you the way it looks with everything changed, and I'll also show you some comparisons to what it looked like before. All right, so let's start down here under the Jeep. This is probably the least showy or least impressive part of the project. This is the rubber isolator that we had to install for the radiator to mount. So if we look here, this is the radiator mount itself that's attached to the frame. At the top, we have the rubber isolator, and then of course just below that is the shim that I built to help raise that up a little bit. Okay, not very glorious, but I think kind of important. So as we take the tour, there's the radiator all installed back the way it should be, and here is that top radiator hose. The way it was designed, the way it was original to the Jeep. I've got the proper solid steel pipe, the proper heavy rubber extensions on it, and then of course the proper or correct hose clamps for that. So that's the top hose, and when we're looking down and we're seeing the bottom hose, and we can see it as it was intended the same way. Solid steel with the heavy rubber and the correct clamps. I also want you to get a look and see the thermostat housing. See if we can get a little different view of that. So there's that housing. We can take a pan around and get to see all this as it was intended. What's especially kind of neat is you can see how that radiator hose is now straight the way it's supposed to be. You can also see the new upper radiator support installed. So that's a much better presentation than the steel rod. And from the back side, these things are always fun to keep going. So we let the Jeep warm up a little bit, and when we took a look at the gauge was running or showing somewhere between 180 and 185. The thermostat we put in was a 165 thermostat, so that's a little confusing and led me to question the accuracy of the gauge. I went downtown and picked up a digital cooking thermometer, and as you can see with the probe inside of the water, it's running 168. It's been climbing slowly. I started out at 165, It's up to 168.7, and it'll continue to climb a little bit. But you can see that it's definitely not running the 180, 185 that the thermostat shows. It's a hot day today. Temperatures are up around 80 degrees, so the engine would obviously run a little bit warmer just because of that. I also borrowed a infrared thermometer from work, and I think that's probably going to be a little bit more accurate. And I also get to test the temperature not only of the water but of the castings and the hoses and where the thermostat is located in the housing as well. Now with the infrared thermometer, we're still showing around 166, 167, somewhere in that range. So the digital thermometer, the cooking thermometer, appears to be fairly accurate. Let's go over and take a look at the hose. So with the infrared thermometer, even that upper hose, that steel hose, is running at 172, 173, somewhere in that area. Let's go over and take a look at the housing itself and see what that's running at. That's showing around 175, which I guess sort of makes a little bit of sense. That would be the hottest part of the water on its return. All right, so the next thing we're going to do, we're going to take it for a ride, take it up and down some hills and heat it up, and then we'll come back and we'll do this all over again. And we'll use the infrared thermometer because I think obviously it's very close to the digital one, so we'll get a good read after we get back. On the dash, the temperature gauge on the dash stayed at 180, which, if you remember from our probes, should be around 165 to 170. Climbing the hills, it did come up about 20 degrees. It rose to 200 on the dash gauge. So let's take a look and see what we actually get with the infrared gauge. So it's hovering right around 188, hits 190, now it's up to 191. Back to 187, so we're staying right at that 185. Let's come over and take a look at the pipe itself. Okay, we're a little hotter there. We're at 201, 200, and the thermostat housing, that seems to be holding right at 200 and 201. Let's go down and take a look at the lower. Okay, the lower one is showing 172. Thermostat housing, that seems to be a little bit high, but I think we're within the range. I think we're okay. I think I'm going to call this a success. Driving it up and down the road, temperature doesn't seem to vary more than 20 degrees between riding on the flats and climbing the hills. It's not that wild fluctuation that I was getting before I put in the new thermostat and the new shroud and everything else that I did. I guess we'll just drive it and look for any kind of issues or problems that might show up. But for now, I think we'll end this here, and hope you enjoyed it, and definitely we'll see you next time. I hope you enjoyed that video. Now, let me show you some of the other things that I had to do in order to get this thing to run as cool as I can. Now, even though I did all the work, putting the new hoses from the engine to the radiator, we checked the radiator out, put the new fan shroud on, and then lifted the fan up enough so that the fan blade was clearing the hose. It still wasn't enough. Now, even though I got it to run a lot cooler, which was evident by this video, didn't get it to run as cool as I wanted even at that point. So in that box of parts that I got from the previous owner was this water pump. Again, sort of telltale from the beginning that something was going on. So I did install the new water pump, and you'll see that in one of the videos in the catalog. I also had to replace the fan belt and all of the pulleys that went in so that I could fit this 5/8 pulley, or 5/8 belt rather, on there. That all helped. But the thing that really made probably the biggest difference was installing this felt wind deflector on the front of the grill. And that video is up on the channel as well, because all of that air was escaping as it was coming in. It was blowing up and coming up, and it wasn't being forced through the opening of the radiator. Now, what I found was that every time I did something new, did some small improvement, the cooling of the engine got better and better and better. I'm still not entirely happy with it. I'm still running around 180 on a hot day, and the same thing if I run too long up a hill. Sometimes that temperature on the thermostat or on the gauge will run itself up to close to 200. I may have to change or fix or check the timing. Timing is a possible problem that I need to look at. I'm not entirely sure at this point, but the damn Jeep, it just runs so sweet. It runs so nice. It has all kinds of power, and the throttle response is just excellent. So it may indeed be the timing, but I'm thinking at this point it's probably not. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Lots of other videos up on the channel worth watching. I appreciate you guys being here. I love you, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.